Today, we're excited to chat about cybersecurity for every client and really dive into a discussion about why MSPs are choosing Field Effect MDR. So, today we will be going through topics like the cybersecurity challenge, the field effect approach, benefits for MSPs, and streamlining cybersecurity. And I will introduce myself very briefly. My name is Chloe Nasco, and I'm the Partner Marketing Manager here at Field Effect. And we are joined by the wonderful Libby Robinson, who is our Director of Product Marketing. Libby has been in the cybersecurity space for over 10 years, and she has been working in both product management, product marketing, and her focus really is on the customer within both of these roles, and she gives her insight into their challenges, where they've been let down in the past, and what we actually need in a solution to make sure that that doesn't happen again. So at Field Effect, what she does is she works as a two-way bridge between the engineering side of the business and the sales and marketing side of the business, and making sure that market requirements get fed into the roadmap, and that product capabilities appropriately speak for our partner, to our partners and to their customers. So that's you fine folks.
Exactly. Yeah. So I like to thank you, Chloe. And I like to sort of the easiest, I think it's like the most exciting job in the world as a totally unbiased opinion. But I always like to say that it's like I get to be sort of the product expert in a room full of marketers and the marketing expert in a room full of product people. So it's a really nice way to sort of see all sides of the business. And I get to talk to you folks, to our partners and our customers and prospects a lot. So it's super exciting.
So we're going to dive into things. Starting off with why cybersecurity is a challenge.
Yeah. So this is kind of kept this up here, and this a little bit like saying cybersecurity is a challenge. It's almost like these days it's like saying water is wet, right? We all know that it's a challenge. So what we really want to focus in today on is like, what are the challenges that your customers are facing, that you guys are facing, and then what are some sort of real ways that you can address those, right? So we're not going to spend 45 minutes on fear mongering and why cybersecurity is real and what's going on out there, but really like what are some really efficient ways that you can best service your customers and see the benefits yourself. So really, I'm going to spend one slide on this. This is the kind of stuff that your customers are seeing all the time. And frankly, you guys, right? There's headlines, everyone's hearing about the latest threat, the latest hit, whatever it is. We know that cybersecurity is a sort of an ever-evolving, ever-changing front. And we know that your customers are often victims thereof, right? So if we take that as an assumed reality, then going to the next slide, what this really means is that it's created sort of headwinds for your customers, right? So there are lots of them, but sort of breaking it into three of the major headwinds that they're facing. So cybercrime is increasing. And it's not even new anymore. It was already progressing before COVID, and then everything blew up. But the cybercrime, right? SMBs are more and more targeted, more easily targeted. I used to speak to one of our executives here, and who was sort of saying like, look, if you have $1,000 in your bank account, a threat actor is happy to take that $1,000 if they can, right? The thing that's really sort of painful for us as for the MSPs and for cybersecurity vendors is to see how often attacks actually could have been prevented, right? So we look at sort of the cybercrime side of it. The cyber insurance is a really interesting one. So speaking to one of our partners last week, who gave the example of a few years ago when he was filling out a cyber insurance application form for his client. It was 7 questions. You ticked a few boxes. It took a couple of minutes, and then you got your cyber insurance. So this, I hope everyone's sitting down. It's maybe a bit shocking. Insurers don't love paying out claims, and that started happening a lot, right? So I know, right? I hope I didn't. I'm sorry. I hope I didn't overly surprise anybody there. So fast forward to now. Post all of those claim payments, that seven question application, he was saying that last, the week before, he had filled out a cyber insurance application for his client that was 33 pages. So in a matter of like a few years, it went from 7 questions to 33 pages, right? And so it's really hard for the SMB to sort of figure out, well, how do I answer yes to all of these things? Or what is it that I actually need to have in order to say yes? And let's be honest, it's tough. It's tough for you guys as well, right? To sort of sort through all that noise. Finally, there is compliance. So we used to always, I think anyways, back in the day, and yes, it's been over 10 years since I've been in cybersecurity, but it's been longer that I've sort of been in the business. I just don't like to refer to how long. Let's pretend that I was a child prodigy and I've just been working since I was 12. But compliance used to be focused in on some of those heavily regulated industries, right? It was sort of limited to finance and legal and healthcare and those sorts of things. What we've seen is compliance start to become slightly more there. Those still exist, the very industry specific compliance frameworks and compliance regulations, but there's also some sort of higher level ones. There's best practices. There's more globalized universal is the better word, cybersecurity frameworks that we're seeing a lot of folks like yourselves, a lot of MSPs starting to use as their baseline measurement for their customers to say, okay, well, these are all the things that we really want to check the boxes for you guys in order for you guys to be truly protected. So knowing that that's the sort of the headwinds that our customers are facing, you can just click animation number 1. Who doesn't love animation on a slide, right? So while this is the unfortunate reality of being the headwind for your clients, it sort of does create like a tailwind for you guys that they are long since have realized, look, this is more than we can handle. And the burden of delivering that cybersecurity has fallen more and more on the backs of the MSP, right? So if you click one more here, unfortunately, you guys have then had to, it's great to sort of accept that burden and say, yes, we want to service our customers, which I know one thing I love about this community is every single time I speak to an MSP, whether it's the partner or whether it's, an L1 tech, it's always like, we really want to do what's best for our customers. We really want to protect them. We really want to make sure that we're offering them the best that we can. Unfortunately, when I mentioned the word burden, I chose it specifically because really all it did was sort of shift the burden from them to you, right? So we all know that cybersecurity skill is hard to come by and expensive. So it's not like you guys could just go out and pull from an enormous, cheap labor skill pool to bring it in. And so often you've been using various tools and solutions that are out there. Unfortunately, there's sort of been like a paradox of choice. So it seems like you have a lot of choice, but oftentimes it's been sort of a choice between something that's pretty sophisticated, has a lot of bells and whistles, but was very much built for a SOC analyst. So it speaks like a SOC analyst, it alerts like a SOC analyst, it just built for that type of environment. Or something that is maybe more, and that comes with a very heavy price tag, or looking at something that's maybe more affordable, but you've lost some of that sophistication, you've lost some of that threat surface, you've lost some of that ability to fully protect. So it's choice with air quotes around it, unfortunately. All right, so what does this mean when we're looking at, and these business impacts are a bit of a mix between impacts for you guys as MSPs and for your customers, right? So for you guys, when you're looking at that choice, if you are going for the sort of, well, I really need to cover every single side of it, and therefore I'm paying quite a bit, you're looking at pretty low margins therein. On the flip side, if you're having to have only your best techs, only your L3 techs, they're the only ones that can manage your cybersecurity. Again, you're looking at kind of low margins. So that's sort of on the, like, when you're talking about the revenue side of it. When you start getting into the cybersecurity side of it, when you're often looking at, so, okay, well, either I've paid a bunch and I have all the bells and whistles, or I sort of, had to come down market a little bit into something that was more financially acceptable to my customers. And I'm not getting quite the same level of coverage. And often that level of coverage comes down to these last two buckets here. So it's sort of a slower response time. So things just get a little further before you get that call, or before you get that alert, or before you get that notification that sort of something nefarious. I love that word. I'm going to just start dropping that everywhere. Something nefarious is going on. And then on top of that, we always, it's one of our sort of reasons to be, or one of our drivers, is that, like, for everything you can do to prevent an attack or to reduce your risk is money well spent, right? It is easier, it is less stressful, it is way less expensive to sort of prevent things from happening than to deal with them after the fact. So if we talk about, right of boom, and it's super catchy, and we all love the phrase, all that stuff that you can do left of boom is huge, right? So, one of our analysts used to always say that every organization, this isn't, I'm not fear mongering here. Everyone knows the reality and everything, but she used to say that every organization has a target on their back. It's just, there is some sort of appetite for a threat actor there. What our job is, and what then becomes your job as the MSP, is how can we take that target and make it as teeny tiny as possible. So those are the sort of the impacts of that, paradox of choice that I was referring to. So really what that means is, if those are the outcomes, and those are the sort of the realities, what is it that your customers and you need in order to be able to surmount those, to sort of overcome those obstacles, right? So we know, and we talked about minimizing the risk as much as possible, that left of boom stuff. And, a lot of that comes from insight and the ability to see, you can't protect what you can't see, all that sort of stuff. So, like, making your risk as teeny tiny as possible. And this is something I say all the time, is there's a pretty big difference between cybersecurity that works at you and cybersecurity that works for you. There are lots of solutions out there. And they are, good at sending alerts and all that kind of stuff. But if it sort of feels like you're struggling to keep up, or that you're spending as long sort of Googling, over here you have two monitors, and on one you're sort of Googling that the alert is actually trying to tell you. And this is one of those things that sort of we find, like, that is especially heartbreaking, right? So we have a side of our business that does incident response. So, folks out there, organizations that have already been breached, and they come to us and they say, can you guys go in, figure out what happened? And, so we do we do the forensic analysis, and we report back. And it is really heartbreaking to see how often they actually did the right things, right? They made they had the security tools in place. And we can say, not only that, here's the time that the tool actually told you that something was wrong. So that, the tool actually did say, that it was seeing this abnormality. If that tool isn't communicating that to you in a way that is meaningful, or it's not taking action when it should, and it's just passively firing things off at you, having cybersecurity in place and just kind of checking the box unfortunately doesn't actually mean that your customers are protected, right? So that's sort of, it needs to be providing clarity. So, like, it needs to be providing you with the information that you need quickly, early, efficiently, and without that sort of random side noise, right? And it has to be able to offer clear insight into what's happening. So that's the kind of the before and after part of it, right? Okay, so then we'll talk here about how we how we are sort of approaching this problem and working with our partners to sort of address some of those challenges. Okay, so this is really Field Effect MDR, and we're gonna spoiler a little bit. We're gonna talk about a new sort of service tier that we've brought into the market. But Field Effect MDR was really built from the ground up, and it was purpose built for MSPs and the SMBs that you guys are servicing, right? So it means that we have focused in on what is the information that you guys need and the coverage that you guys need. And it's delivering a holistic solution. And I'm smiling a little bit when I say holistic, because that word sometimes is sort of thrown about, bandied about a little bit, meaninglessly. That's a word, right? Meaninglessly.
Yeah.
And I am going to get into on a couple of slides, and we're going to talk about what we mean by that, because I want you to understand that we're not here to sort of talk about fluff, and that there is meaning behind that. And same goes with the comprehensive defense and total clarity. So going into the comprehensive defense, right? So it's really important to understand that defense isn't just about reaction. You absolutely need to have that as part of a strong defense, but it's that left of boom stuff that you want as well, right? So you want to be able to reduce risk, and you want to be able to stop attacks across your whole threat surface, right? So identify early, so that kind of requires monitoring across a really wide breadth of surface, identifying areas of risk, making that really clear for you guys to be able to address for your customers. And ultimately, that is beneficial for both your customers and yourselves, right? Yes, it's great for your customers. It also much reduces the liability for you guys, right? Anything that you guys can do to proactively protect your customers and keep them happy, right? And offer that peace of mind. So this is really built into everything that we do. It's that it needs to be seeing as much as possible. It needs to be working in prevention mode. It needs to be able to detect things early, and that includes both known and emerging zero-day threats. It really has to be smart enough to sort of notice what's like anything that is wrong, and then needs to be able to respond. So you really want that active response behind you, so that you're not having to be like, oh, okay, hold on, I have this alert. Do I need to do anything? That kind of thing. So we have this active response. It's very tailored. You guys can sort of turn it up or turn it down, globally, customer specific, or even sort of, hey, this is my customer's production server. You have to be like, a threat actor has to be knocking on that door before you shut that down. But hey, Libby's device, if it's something even looks funky, shut that down. It's just Libby. It doesn't matter if she doesn't get access to her computer for a little while. Okay, so that's the comprehensive defense side. Now getting into the holistic approach, and I promised that I would sort of give credence and give some meaning behind the word holistic. And this is it, kind of on a single page. So we'll walk through each of these pieces, starting with, I'm going to kind of go left, right, center. So that unified visibility. So when we talk about visibility, this is something that Matt, our CEO, has said, and I found it really enlightening. Anyways, it was a big sort of like aha moment for me, was that to stop the bad guys, we need to see at least as much as they do, right? So there's visibility in terms of what we can see and how we can react to it. But if there's attackers aren't out there going, well, I'm only gonna attack the endpoint. Oh, they got me. Never mind. They are looking at all these inventive ways to get in, to land and expand. So it really means you kind of have to have the visibility across all of it, right? So when we talk about our approach and why we're really proud of what we have out in the market, is there is visibility, and then there's sort of unified integrated visibility. So all of these things you're seeing on the left, it's all sort of natively built, which means that each of these things was built to interact with the other, which is one of the ways that we can really deliver that noise-free solution, right? It means there's a lot of crosstalk in between, and we can say, okay, Instead of having a solution that's like, oh, I see something, just in case I'll fire something. Oh, I see something over here, just in case I'll fire something. Because a lot of the times, unfortunately, sometimes things that are totally innocent just are they follow some of the same characteristics as something that is anomalous. So having that visibility across the whole that whole threat surface, and very specifically the ability to sort of natively crosstalk, allows us to say, oh, okay, hold on, but because of this and this and this and this and this is actually safe or not safe, and we're going to consolidate all of that into a single alert if necessary, or we're going to toss it as noise, right? So there's that sort of endpoint side of it, and the endpoint, the endpoint agent is sort of forward deployed, so it's acting in a reactive way at the endpoint level itself. Also speaking with the sort of the cloud services. So a lot of our customers are focused on the MDR for M365 and or Google Workspace. But we also have a lot of other third-party cloud apps that we monitor as well. There's Salesforce, Duo, AWS, Okta, all that kind of stuff. So looking for anomalous logins, essentially, or anomalous authorization attempts. And then there's that network that kind of fills in the gap, right? So it's looking at everything that's coming in and out of of the perimeter as sort of that final safety net, right? So if we go to the other side, you have tech, obviously, that is super, super important. And then you have what is that sort of expertise-driven part of the cybersecurity solution that you need, right? So it's like, how many threats are you able to disrupt and contain? What is the threat hunting that your team is doing that you guys are benefiting from? And that's across what we're seeing in the MDR, as well as what we see from our IR team as well, right? What is the threat intel? What is that analyst triage? What are the sort of the analytics that you guys need to maybe tailor for specific scenarios? All that sort of stuff. So there's that technology side of it, and then there's that sort of expertise side of it, and all of that feeds into our ability to detect threats and automate or notify, that kind of thing, depending on your particular setup. And that really all comes down to that middle part, which is where all of that smarts is built into, right? We call it our advanced analytics engine. And what that does is it basically takes our technology intelligence, if you will, and our people intelligence, and it's able to process it at scale. So we pull in a bunch of machine learning and AI type alerts, and unfortunately, without a layer of triage there, that's a lot of noise to deal with. So all of that goes through the engine. And every time our analysts are learning something, that we're learning something, that our agent is learning, that's kind of feeding back into that analytics. Because it would be great if it could just be entirely human driven and they could look at absolutely everything and they could decide whether something was bad or not, but then you would never scale, right? So it's taking that ability and putting it into an engine that can process at scale. Okay, so what does it mean to have clarity, right? And so I'm going to speak to the clarity as it relates to AROs. And in case you guys aren't familiar or have forgotten, our AROs are actions, recommendations, and observations. They are the main way in which we communicate things that are going on in the system. So we'll spend a couple of minutes talking about that, but just wanted to sort of impart that the clarity is more than just the AROs. Excuse me. The clarity is more than just the AROs, right? So we have a lot of risk first views, and so you can look at the endpoints across your entire base and say, whoa, okay, hold on, which are the endpoints prioritized by risk or by things that need to be addressed. You can do that same view for accounts. You can do that same thing by vulnerability. We have lots of different reports that are sort of highlighting the strengths and the gaps in the security posture for any given client. So clarity really means a lot, but a lot of it does come into our AROs. So these are our version of alerts. And we put a lot of time and effort into making sure that, if I go back to my point of working for you, that they are communicating information in a way that is consumable, accessible, understandable, and actionable where appropriate. So we don't rely on jargon and cybersecurity speak. We really, and this is, our partners and our techs tell us like, man, I didn't actually realize how much time I was spending looking, like troubleshooting the alerts themselves and trying to figure out what it is that they told me. So like that the jargon and sort of cyber speak can slow things down a little bit. And what we found is that for a lot of our MSPs, they're able to take cybersecurity out of purely the L3 tech hands and put it in the L1 tech hands. And what they're telling us that's allowed them to do is sort of take those L3 techs and L2 and L3 techs, I should say, and put them on sort of those higher margin work, right? And bring the cybersecurity down to the L1. And the other thing is that definitely don't want you guys leaving here thinking, oh, noise free, cool. Is it also just not telling me about things? It's all of that stuff we were talking about in sort of that like holistic front. Noise free doesn't mean like weirdly quiet. It just means, and actually one of our partners said this yesterday, was that like you're just telling me what I need to know when I need to know it, right? And I thought that was a pretty succinct way of framing it. So if we look at kind of like the nuts and bolts of an ARO, some of it is, and some AROs are going to be, hey, we saw this, and we locked down this account, or we locked down this device, or we isolated this device, we quarantined, whatever it is. So some of them are going to be based on things that happened. Some of them are going to be based on things that need to happen, or hey, this is something that we noticed smells a bit funky. The important thing is that not just the information of what has happened, but what you guys need to do with that, right? If anything. So we want to make sure that the mitigation steps and the sort of follow-on actions are super clear for you guys too, right? So that's what we're just highlighting there. Hopefully, what this means for you guys is that you are, better able to sort of boost those margins. And I am gonna get into sort of the actual MDR solution here in a sec, and sort of hopefully drive a little bit of that more home. The reduction in liability for you guys is huge, right? So we've spoken to a lot of partners that have, or sometimes had, a lot of very no other way to say it, not that we would say this to their face, but sort of immature customers, right? Who didn't really buy into cybersecurity and were like, well, I have an AV, like isn't that enough? And we have partners who actually ended up like firing those customers, right? Because just the liability on their backs was such that they're like, look, I've tried to educate you. I've tried to, I've sort of tried to inform you on the risks, and I cannot, if you're not going to sort of meet me halfway, I'm sorry, we can't do business anymore, kind of thing. So nobody ever wants to, no MSP wants to fire a client, but you certainly don't want to be carrying around a massive, load of liability. And then what we really want to be able to do is support and accelerate that growth. And we'll get into some examples in a little bit here, but spoiler alert, we know a lot of you guys, a lot of MSPs are looking to add that second S, right? Are looking to move into the MSSP land. And that's what we really, really want to support you guys on, where you are today, where your customers are today, but where you and they may be tomorrow. Okay, so coming back to this flywheel here then. We talked about, we promised in the agenda that we'd speak about the ability to streamline the cybersecurity. So given those headwinds from the SMBs, the sort of the tailwinds of the gap for you guys, and the choices that you guys have had to make in the past, you guys often, unfortunately, are in the reality where there's a lot of sort of tech stack bloat, for lack of a better word, right? There's a lot of stuff that you guys are managing, and at a very high cost, right? So not everybody, but a lot of MSPs are looking to sort of reduce that to reduce that tech stack, but at the very least reduce the cost to you guys, to your customers, and reduce the complexity, right? So we'll get into the into the streamlining bit here. So you guys are probably familiar with the solution on the left, MDR Complete. That's what we've had in the market for since our inception. And what we're rolling out now, and want to walk you guys through a little bit today, is this this new solution that we have, MDR Core. And and you guys are going to have the luxury of looking at this beautiful calming slide for a few minutes while I kind of go into the background a wee bit. So when we had MDR Complete out on the market, which we still do, sorry, I should say very specifically, one isn't a replacement of the other. They are complementary. You can have a mix of all of them across your base. But what our partners were telling us was, that's great, love the Complete, but hey, we also have this other bunch of users that maybe Complete is more than they need. Maybe their threat surface needs aren't quite as much. Maybe they're sort of, complementary side, they're not as, as driven by compliance or cyber insurance requirements. Do you have anything that is sort of more tailored to that, again, not trying to demean them by any stretch of the imagination, but sort of like maybe on the lower complexity, sometimes smaller side of the business. So that what we wanted to do there, once we're acknowledging the ask from our partners, was we definitely didn't want to take Complete, tear out a bunch of stuff and say, there you go, now cheaper, and there's a bunch of wires dangling and it doesn't suit anybody's needs, right? So we took some time to, again, go back to our wonderful MSP base and do a little research on our own to say, okay, well, what does that customer profile look like? So building that up from there and saying, okay, if this is the type of profile that our MSPs are telling us they have, what are the cybersecurity needs that they have? Because we definitely don't want to leave them hanging. We don't want to have some other solution out there that's leaving them hanging, right? So what that ended up looking like to us was, the folks on the Complete side, they may be further along in their scale or their sort of their journey. They may be driven by cyber insurance requirements, cyber compliance requirements. They may just be larger. There is sort of the inevitability of the sort of the IT complexity that comes from a larger user base, more endpoints, more advanced networking, more cloud apps, all that kind of stuff. So that's that Complete side. And when we looked at the MDR Core profile, what that looked like was, sort of smaller, but mostly earlier in their journey often. Now, it doesn't mean that it's only folks at the beginning, but what we wanted to do was bring something that could align to either someone who doesn't have massive IT complexity and never will. Maybe it's a small mom and pop shop. It's a few people that they're always going to be working from home, and it's just a handful, and that's their business, and that's where they're going to stay, and that's great. You also have some that come in, and those things are true for them today, but may not be true for them forever as they sort of scale and grow, right? So wanted to make sure that what we had this solution that serviced both sides of that spectrum, but allowed you to kind of move your customers from one to the other as well, right? So have a nice seamless transition when you were getting your customers, like, look, they're at a phase now where they need some of that extra threat surface, that threat surface coverage there. Okay, so coming into looking at those benefits again. Now let's sort of dive into that sort of streamlining cybersecurity with a solution that covers that entire base. So want to just quickly intro Core and Complete. You guys will get additional information about each of them, and certainly you can reach out to us if you're interested in learning more, seeing a demo, whatever it may be. But if we move on to the next, as I said, we didn't want to just sort of like start and rip out from scratch. So if you sort of focus in on the left, everybody's getting that security intelligence, and everyone's getting threat hunting, everyone's getting active response, Everyone's getting, well, here, let me just now go into into the middle piece. So one of the things that was really important was that we didn't want to strip the ability to act proactively and preventatively for your customers, right? So we talked a lot about risk reduction. And unfortunately, the reality is that when I was talking about that sort of paradox of choice, that is because it's hard, right? There's no way to pretend it's not hard to sort of be looking for all those vulnerabilities and sharing them in a meaningful way. Unfortunately, that's a lot of the time what you and your customers are having to sacrifice, right? So we wanted to make sure that all of our solutions are always going to have that preventative, proactive component to them, because I think it breaks our cyber analyst's brain if we even suggest having a solution that doesn't have that. Like, well, why wouldn't you? It's not cybersecurity if it doesn't have the ability to prevent, to sort of address vulnerabilities and prevent these sort of things. So if we look at so we talked about the profile, and if we look at what's included here, the MDR core is going to have protection again across your endpoints and MDR for M365 or Google Workspace. I think most of the folks here are probably mostly M365, but we know we have customers that have Google Workspace as well. So just want to call that out, that it's flexible for both. Also want to point out that in any of these, so for our endpoint, for the cloud monitoring, for the Office Productivity Suite monitoring, there's no like dialed back version. There's no lever that we've turned down or anything like that. It's the same agent. It's the same set of analytics that's working on both. We're getting external threat scanning. We're getting threat hunting, managed, everything being managed by the 24/7 SOC. That's included in everything as well. The containment, the active containment and threat disruption is included in both. And again, I know I may sound like I'm beating this, but this is just so exciting and important for us. I just want to make it clear again that it does provide that proactive risk reduction. So if we look at MDR Complete, which tends to be that, just as a reminder, like, more like advanced IT driven by compliance or insurance requirements, or they have to report to a board or whatever it is, and often slightly larger businesses. Not only, I just want to make sure that it isn't just size related, because often we've had this discussion with a lot of our MSPs, right? You can absolutely have a very small legal firm or, dentist office or something like that, that's small, but is driven by, HIPAA or PCI or PII. And then absolutely they need those, they need that compliance side of it as well. So in MDR Complete, getting everything in core, plus the addition of the network and additional SaaS apps monitoring. So the SaaS apps monitoring are those portions I was mentioning, like Salesforce, Okta, Duo, ServiceNow, AWS. I already said AWS. I'm going to stop. It's a bunch. You can see them on the website, and we'll share the information. The DNS filter is included in Complete. Monthly dark web monitoring is included in Complete. There is enhanced threat analysis that's happening on the Complete side as well. And really what that amounts to is sort of like an addition to the threat hunting. So you guys are probably aware there's a whole bunch of alerts that can be generated that are extreme. We call them low confidence alerts that mostly are noise. So in Complete, what you're going to get is an analyst is still going to go in and look at those low confidence alerts just to make sure that you're getting the absolute very, very, very earliest, just in case it is an indicator of compromise. Anything low, medium, or high confidence that is an action, though, if we talk about AROs, anything that is going to generate an action, a human, like an analyst is going to look at that either side. There's also advanced risk and compliance reporting here. So in terms of the reporting side of it, and even some of those other portions of it, how I like to draw the line between the core and the Complete is that in core, your customers are getting everything they need, and you are getting the peace of mind that they are protected, right? You're able to see, and you're able to get visibility through the reports and the views into what is going on in the system. What are the active things that I need to be aware of and I need to be working on? And then, what are my weekly reports? What happened last week and all that kind of stuff. In the Complete, because they're being driven from often those sort of third-party external factors, you're getting a little bit more insight into trending, you're getting more dashboard, like how am I doing over time? What are some, analyst focused strengths and maybe gaps for any given customer that I should be addressing, or that I want to highlight to them, those sorts of things. So it's protection, and then with a little bit more, dashboarding, trending, that sort of thing. That you're getting for the complete folks. Looking to, when we talked about streamline, hopefully what this allows you guys to do is sort of have a like a single solution that allows you to start your customers in their journey here and move them up, or just a right fit, right size approach for your customer base. But really, like, streamlining across the whole thing, it means that, like, prioritized alerting. It means that, like, you with the, like, noise-free high alert. So I always say alert. Did I say alert? High alert fidelity, low alert noise allows you to sort of, like, to appropriately allocate your techs and decide where you want your sort of L2, L3 techs to be focusing their energy on the higher margin stuff. It hopefully allows you guys to maximize your margins, right? And this is what we hear a lot. There's a lot of consolidation of tech stack that we want to offer our MSPs, or we can work alongside what they have, right? But what we find is, one of my favorite quotes from a customer webinar that we did was, he said that, I think I asked him, like, what are like the 5 words that you would say to other MSPs? And he was like, more bang for your buck, right? And that sort of makes us feel like we're doing something right. And then finally, we really want to be able to support you and your customers on their cybersecurity journey, no matter where they are. Either you guys looking to move your entire customer base up, or starting with a mix of two, right? Is that we want to make that as easy as possible for you guys to service your whole base. And part of that is integrating with your preferred PSA tool, right? So it's just worth noting that for anyone on MDR Complete or MDR Core, all of those arrows are feeding into your PSA tool, where your techs are familiar and comfortable. And it's just to make it super, super obvious in case there are questions. Yes, it is a two-way integration, so our arrows will feed into there. Your techs can work them in there, and then that will feed back and resolve and close arrows on their side. And then a couple more slides here before wrapping up. The final piece, and we sort of already spoken a lot about the cybersecurity side, but what a lot of this hopefully does for you guys is support your growth into that MSSP, if that is your chosen destiny, or maybe you're just hearing about it now and you're like, I would love to add that second S to my acronym. But that is, and I'm going to get into it on the next slide here. Part of that, for sure, is being able to offer that sophistication on the cybersecurity side, being able to have anyone within your organization work security, but really the ability to sort of move upstream, and that sort of thing is more than just that, right? So really, we want to leave you guys knowing that we really do want to offer you a partnership. We have no interest in selling you a solution and then walking away. We really want to be working with you. So what does that mean? So we have a screenshot here of our partner portal. So obviously, we are partners with you on the cybersecurity side, but we're also partners with you on the sales and marketing and customer success side, right? So you guys get access to a whole bunch of sales and marketing assets. Chloe has done a whole bunch of, we call them campaigns in a box, where it's sort of like, hey, you want to talk to your customers about this problem? You want to talk to your customers about, in that vertical, whatever it is, because we know that you guys have to spend, let's say, not an insignificant time educating your customer base, right? So we want to make sure that we're making that as easy for you as possible. Speaking of the education side, as part of your partnership, you and your techs, your folks get access to cybersecurity training as well to really like sharpen your cybersecurity expertise. Kind of runs through like what does a phishing attack look like? What does an unauthorized an unauthorized access attempt look like, and all that kind of stuff. So really to get you guys more honed in on those areas of knowledge with labs. There's like sort of hands-on labs, all that kind of stuff and courses. You guys you're gonna get support from both our sales folks and our technical sales folks. So some of you may already have encountered some of those folks, but they will hop on calls with you. They will help you position. They will do the demos, all that kind of stuff. You're also getting obviously a dedicated customer success manager, performance incentives, all these sorts of things. And actually, one of the other things that I would be remiss in saying is that because you may remember on the slide earlier talking about like an MSP focused, like a purpose built for MSPs also means that you guys are our key customers, right? So we work with our MSPs on the roadmap both ways, sort of like as you guys are feeding stuff into us. And also when we are ready to pilot or sort of trial new features, we reach out to our MSP base and get it in their hands, just and sort of feedback how it's working, all that kind of stuff. So I think I probably spent enough time on this slide. So just the last one, we invite you, if you're sort of sitting here going, this sounds great, but this is, of course, you're going to say great things about yourselves. Just want to invite you to go and look at some of these customer review sites. I know that the MSP community, while there are thousands of MSPs out there, it's really small. So, just reach out at events, come find us at events, come talk to us, and we would really, really love to earn your business. And I think that's all she wrote.
We have one question that just came in here. CMMC 2.0 is a big topic right now. Can you speak to Field Effect walking with MSPs and compliance clients to CMMC?
Yeah, so on the I mentioned compliance quite a few times. CMMC is one of the topics. Sorry, I'm gonna close it off because I'm still reading this and this is distracting me. So CMMC was one that our compliance team was tracking quite aggressively. That's not the right word, closely, because it took a while for it to kind of lean in as to what was it going to mean from a cybersecurity practice. So I would actually invite you to go to our website. There's a whole blog on CMMC 2.0. I'm not wrong about that, right, Chloe? Matt Lewis did put a blog together, and it was okay. So I'm not pointing them to a dead spot. Yeah. So if you're interested in CMMC 2.0 and the sort of the latest final results, have a look at the blog. We also have a compliance specialist who loves nothing more than to get on the phone with our partners and their customers to walk them through what it might mean for them. So I invite you to have a look at that blog. And if you think that you're ready to have a conversation, please do reach out, because that is we recognize that has been a very moving target. So can definitely help out there.
And one other resource quickly, on the fieldeffect.com resources page specifically, we do have a webinar on demand with our Chief Security Officer, Matt Lewis, walking through what the new rule means for you and your clients, but also a piece about how Field Effect MDR can help out there.
Yeah. This one seems like a lob, but like it's not a planted question. So I'm actually going to answer it. What has been the biggest piece of feedback that let your team know you were on the right track with launching MDR Core? I would say so. The rollout of this one started with early adopters. I mentioned that we often work with our partners to sort of with early versions or prior to GA. So in October, We started rolling out to 20-ish early adopters, and then sort of expanded quite quickly from that. I would say that the biggest feedback that we got, honestly, was I would go through and so that sort of that single slide that I had with you guys where I walked through, this is a high level of core and high level complete. With our for those early adopter conversations, we went through like very specific line item by line item what the differences were, and spent a lot of time on that, discussing what the price was for the market. And I would say that the greatest feedback we got was like, awesome, can I start selling this now? So that was probably the greatest feedback that we got. And we had customers, we had partners rather in there, within a couple of weeks, with the core licenses and complete licenses. And actually we've had a few customers already, even though it's only been a couple of months, that have customers that started with core and have already, moved them up to complete. So I would say that those are sort of the specific areas of feedback. For pricing, would love to have you guys speak to one of our account reps on that one, because it's so our pricing is per user pricing. It's not per endpoint pricing, and that's really key. And what we find is there's about 1.5 to 2 endpoints per user. There's lots of cloud accounts that we deduplicate, so there's a reason that we choose per user. It's just it's easy, it's straightforward, and we also know that's how you guys charge your clients. So it's per user pricing, and there are different sort of bands based on how many users you have. There's an intro offer if you guys happen to also already have complete customers, where you can sort of start in a higher band for core to get sort of best pricing there. So absolutely would invite you to reach out. If you don't already, as Chloe says, if you don't already have a specific contact, I believe we'll share in the follow-up here. We'll sort of have an email address that you can make that contact, and the right person will reach out to you ASAP.
Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. I know that we went the full amount of time here, really engaging content from Libby. So Libby, thank you so much for walking us through that.
Thanks everyone for your time. Much appreciated. And as Chloe and I said, you will get access to this, and we'll be sure to share some relevant core and complete assets with you as well.